Three, two, one.
This week on the Movies and Stuff show, we discuss how Michael Bay caused an invasion of Iraq. We talk about Sulu's lifestyle, Charlie Kaufman's views on indie films, and then we discuss 1987's Masters of the Universe and air an interview we did with actress Chelsea Fields. Stay tuned. And welcome once again to the Movies and Stuff show. We are coming to you live from the suburbs of New Jersey and Missouri. My name is Dan, and joining me is a man who makes life decisions based on Michael Bay films. Abe.
You're damn right I do. You are goddamn right. Pearl Harbor was very influential in my life. I'm going to take a train to England.
I just got to say, Michael Bay is known for doing a lot of cocaine and sleeping with many beautiful women.
He does do a lot of cocaine?
Oh, yeah.
I'm not going to slander the man.
Allegedly.
Out of the gate, opening us up for a lawsuit. 2 minutes in.
Allegedly does a lot of cocaine and sleeps with many beautiful women. Allegedly.
I don't think he'd dispute that part.
Did you see that a recent report was released that suggests that Britain entered the Iraq War based on false intelligence? That was probably based on Michael Bay's The Rock.
No.
The intelligence report, as I'd like to call it, cited a source who said that Iraq was storing nerve gas in these glass containers. And then it was found out that the original source was lying and probably just watched Nick Cage shove a glass vial of nerve gas into some guy's mouth in The Rock.
Unbelievable. Unfucking believable.
If you were going to provide false intelligence to a government, which movie would you cite?
Man, that's a tough call. That is a tough call. I think my knee-jerk reaction is I would feed them the plot of Miami Vice to see if the intelligence community can actually make sense of it, because I sure as shit couldn't.
See, I would probably just redo the entire thing of Usual Suspects.
I thought that
so
too.
Well, right? You know,
Kaiser Soze.
Soze. Picking beans in Guatemala, right? Picking coffee beans in Guatemala.
Yep.
I'm talking orca fat.
Yeah.
Yep. Kobayashi.
Yep. There was some barbershop quartet in there too.
There was in Skokie, Illinois, right?
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah. I can't believe. I mean, Britain enters the Iraq War based off of this intelligence report. Granted, we entered the Iraq War on less of an intelligence report.
That's right. Yeah, we had like a courtroom sketch of a weapons trailer or whatever.
It was more like Michael Bay's Transformers that we ended up. It's like, oh my God, Saddam Hussein has these giant robots that transform into things. We have to go invade. The Senate, we approve. We gotta stop those Decepticons. We need to stop the Decepticons from getting the. I haven't even seen those movies. Is it the same thing from the cartoon? Is it the same kind of like?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
Autobots versus Decepticons. Yeah. The government gets in the way.
But I mean, is it the little cubes that they need? The energy.
Oh,
cubes?
the Energon. I want to say. I don't. I think they're just
gonna play it all.
Man, they're just like throwing down. I don't think they need energy necessarily. But man, I mean, I don't know. Do you really watch those movies for the plot?
I don't watch those movies at all.
I mean, I've seen them on. I've turned them on Netflix, but I don't really pay attention. North by Northwest. That might be a good movie to feed the government. A fake agent who's not even really real.
Batman v Superman. Hey, you just watched Batman v Superman's the extended edition, right?
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I highly recommend everybody watch that. Even if you saw the theatrical, you have to see that extra 30 minutes. It really fleshes some things out. Lex's plan is even better when you watch the Ultimate. Yeah.
I want to check it out.
Oh, you should totally.
Yeah. No, I've heard really good things about it. Even from people that really loved Batman v Superman in theaters, they said, "Well, this is even better."
It is top notch, man. Still the best movie we've roundtabled.
Like what other film? Kingdom of Heaven is another one where the director's cut far superior than theatrical release. Right? Did you see Kingdom of Heaven?
I never did see the director's cut or the ultimate cut or the extended cut, whatever.
Good fucking film.
Yeah.
Really good.
I am told that Sucker Punch needs to be seen in the ultimate cut too. Zack Snyder, he needs to get his goddamn vision on the screen the first time. The studios need to get out of his way.
Yeah, that's a shame. It really is a shame. It's he makes the film that he wants to make, and then the studio just says, "Well, we can't put this film out."
Right.
And then that film ends up getting shit on, and people think that Zack Snyder's terrible. You know, like, it just sucks. I mean, the guy's crying himself all the way to the bank. So
right, yeah, I'm sure he's not having too bad of a time right now.
Not really. Last week.
What happened last week?
Last week, we saw some Star Trek news.
Oh yeah, we did.
It was not associated with Axonar.
Or a lawsuit.
Lawsuit, no. It was much more civil, I guess. It was reported that the character Sulu is going to be made into a gay character to honor George Takei, the actor who originally played Sulu in the show and films, and is a activist of sorts.
I'd say he's one of the most famous
activists.
Yeah.
Takei was not pleased with the decision, though. Said it goes against Roddenberry's original character.
Yeah.
Simon Pegg responded with his justification for it. And, you know, here's my take on it. Star Trek 09 establishes alternate timeline. In this timeline, Sulu is gay. End of story.
All right.
That's it. You disagree?
I want to know why. How? Nothing. Okay. The Star Trek universe was the same until Nero came back in time, and that changed everything. How did Nero coming back make Sulu gay? That's going to drive me up a wall. How did that happen?
He saw how sexy Cumberbatch was as Khan.
That's it.
He's like, whoa.
You know me. You know I love in-universe explanations of things. I love that. It just and Star Trek kind of lives and dies by in-universe explanations of things.
It was forced into this film, I feel.
Right.
I don't think and Chikai's like, listen, I want more diversity. I want more gay characters. I think that's great. But this is just stupid. I agree. I think it's forced. It comes off as pandering in a way.
It is. It's a little lazy too. Like we need more we need more diversity. Oh, let's make this character gay. Done.
I would have rather make Kirk gay.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. Yeah.
Like, well, that actually explains a lot of things. It's over machismo, is womanizing, you know? That actually makes more sense.
It does. It does.
There's more clues about Kirk than there are about Sulu. Yeah, I think, and Peg's response and his defensiveness about it, I don't know. I mean, in theory, we're planning to roundtable this. We'll see. We'll see if it happens.
I can do it all by myself.
You could. You're going to go see it.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'll go see it even if we weren't going to roundtable it. Star Trek is one of the few things that actually continued to get me in the theater.
Yeah. I'm not confident in Peg's ability to write a full Star Trek movie.
I don't know.
I have a bad feeling about
Hey, that's the wrong franchise, fool.
You know, I don't have a good feeling about him being able to write a cohesive Star Trek film.
My one go to in this argument is that speech at the end of World's End, where he talks about how messy and kind of sloppy and disgusting humans are. That is the ultimate anti-Captain Picard speech at the end of a TNG episode. He gets it. He gets it. I don't know if he can flesh it out for the full 90 minutes or whatever. Yeah, but he gets it. On some level, he gets it.
Yeah, I would have, rather than bring in Ronald D. Moore.
Well, yeah, but he, remember... He's not going to be working on a Star Trek, and the Miami Dolphins aren't going to win a Super Bowl ever. That's just
no, not going to happen.
Yeah.
Apparently, Outlander's doing really well, though. He's having fun with that. Yeah. So good for him. Last topic. It has to do with the state of independent film. Something that we talk about, I think, often on this show. I think we're both independent film fans in general, right?
Yeah. I don't know if we talk about independent films or just shit on the bigger films. It's 6 of one, half dozen of another.
Whatever. And I feel like Veggie Lasagna is very pro indie film on our channel. It covers a lot of indie films that don't get a lot of coverage. Reviews a lot. They just continue to review films that probably aren't talked about as much as they should. So I feel our family, our channel, embraces independent films and we talk about it. And one of my favorite members of the past in regards to independent films is Charlie Kaufman. This is a guy that he wrote Eternal Sunshine, Spotless Mind, Being John Malkovich, one of my favorite movies. Absolutely love Being John Malkovich. Adaptation, fantastic. I think Adaptation's excellent. Confessions of a Dangerous Mind.
Such an odd little movie, yeah.
Love it. Love it. Directed by George Clooney.
Yeah. And Julia Roberts isn't annoying in that movie. I just want to say, she is not annoying in Confessions of a Dangerous Mind. That's a feat in of itself.
It really is a hell of a movie. People should really check it out. Yeah. I actually saw that in a preview, like a sneak preview type thing, a guest audience type thing. Audience preview. You know what I'm saying? Like the studio does a little. I'll fill out this questionnaire afterwards. What do you think?
Right.
One of those. So that's pretty cool. One of the issues that Mr. Kaufman appears to be having is that he can't get his own films made anymore. It seems that he's trying to make more films and he can't do it, and he's accepting writing jobs and able to sustain his living, but he can't make his own films. He hasn't actually had great success as a director. I think his films that he's directed just haven't kind of had the mark that the films that he's just written have. And one of the things that he
keep going.
What?
No, I said that's a bold statement. Schenectady, New York is one of the top 5 or 6 movies of the 21st century.
Okay, no. I'm not saying my perception. I'm saying audience perception.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
No. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I
think the audiences, when you ask them, Eternal Sunshine, Being John Malkovich, Adaptation,
right.
Like, those to them, they're endearing, and I think his personal films haven't had the connection, the success as some of the stuff that he's written. That's what I'm trying to say.
All right.
And one of the issues might be is that early on he was hooking up with like Michel Gondry and Spike Jonze and some of these people that had already established themselves in the indie film arena, if you will. Do you think it's just it's a widespread issue with indie films, or do you think it's just Kaufman and should he just go back to writing? Do you think he should just kind of again like maybe write a superhero film, make some cash, and then make a film that he wants on the side?
He maybe actually that's probably a really solid plan right there. He should totally John Sayles it. Do some work that sucks. Polish Iron Man 6 and then take that money and invest it, or get a favor from a few studio people to kick you a couple $1,000,000. I did look at this up though. According to what I saw, Sundance has approximately 4,000 feature films submitted to them per year. It's estimated that of all the indie films Sundance receives, 2% or slightly under actually make any money. There are 3,000 currently active film festivals going on right now. In the last 15 years, there's almost 10,000 film festivals. I think we're actually looking at market oversaturation at the moment. There's a very firm line between market competition and market oversaturation. I think indie films have hit the saturation point, the oversaturation point, I should say.
Right.
The only way to really increase way to increase the market here is to increase population, or you have to make your product stand out of the crowd, and it's almost impossible if just at Sundance alone there's 4,000 feature-length films submitted to them.
Right.
That's mind-boggling.
Yeah, I think it's tough. I think you're right. I think that there is a huge abundance of indie filmmakers out there. More so, and because the technology is caught up, it's easier to make indie films. It's cheaper to make indie films in the scheme of things. You got people filming shit on iPhones, Snapchat movies, not Snapchat, Periscope movies, things like that. Snapchat movie would actually be a flip book, I guess.
Yeah, there you go. Tangerine. That was the film that got all the love. That was filmed solely on an iPhone. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So I mean, that I think that goes to your point. It's just there's just a lot out there.
There's too much out there, I think. Sad to say, but yeah. And then you couple that with the fact that movie theater attendance is down. It's all Netflix now, and people apparently, according to what we're seeing from Netflix, people want to watch episodes. They don't want to watch movies. They want 45 minutes to an hour, and then they want to be able to walk away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder if it's going to be more about indie film series type things, doing the six episodes, 30-minute episodes or something like that.
If I was going to make an indie project, I would definitely look at a way to do it in a serialized format. Yeah.
Even a short series or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Limited run.
Season.
Right.
Yeah, right. I think I agree with you. And I know that a couple years ago, maybe 2-3 years ago, it was talk about Kaufman redoing Slaughterhouse-Five, I think.
I do remember hearing something about that.
Yeah, which I'd be interested in seeing.
Yeah,
but nothing's really come about that.
I know I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Lynch called this, 2006, 2007, when he said, the art house is dying, and he just never went back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there a solution? I should there be tiers, different tiers of expectations for indie films, just really start breaking things down by budget of I don't know, of what you consider indie anymore.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, obviously we use indie saying not studio backed.
But
then we have a perception that something like Fox Searchlight is indie, whereas something like from the Weinstein Company isn't. But the Weinsteins are self-financing outside of the studio system. Right. It's all skewed. It's all fucked up.
I mean, for years, Lionsgate was one of the top indie distributors, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
they took
on
now.
Now it's Lionsgate's on everything.
Pretty much. They're like the Canon Films of now.
Well, let's see if they decide to make a Masters of the Universe film. Look at that. Great segue.
Boom.
We're going to be talking about Masters of the Universe this week. We're going to air an exclusive interview with actress Chelsea Field. You see that little button below? Subscribe to us. Just a reminder, we appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about MOTU. MOTU.
MOTU.
Let's do it.
All right.
Okay. I really enjoyed this movie when I was younger. And I still think it's a fun film. I wish that the original concept of seeing this film take place on Eternia, a full-on kind of fantasy film, I wish that that's what they would have done, but budgetary reasons, Canon Films, they had to rewrite it to make it split between Eternia and then Heavy Earth, because it was easier to just film in Earth.
I think split implies 50-50.
Okay. Well, a 90-10.
Yeah.
When did you first see it? What did you think?
Man, I saw it as a kid at some point. It had to be on VHS. I don't really remember exactly when. Disappointed would be the way to say it. I did not want to see a fish out of the water story here. Yeah, it was probably like 10 or 11. Had to be right around there.
80s, 80, 88.
Yeah, right around that 11 or so. Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, I love that He-Man cartoon. I loved Eternia and Battle Cat and all that. And no, I did not want to see. Yeah, I did not want to see this as a kid.
So you didn't like it?
No.
So it brings us to our rewatch.
Yeah.
Does this? Well, I won't even say does this hold up. I mean, does your perspective change? So overall, I still found this to be an enjoyable film. Yeah, it's cheesy fun. One of my favorite scenes from childhood memory from a film is in this one, and that's when they're eating the barbecue ribs and chicken, and Teela's like, I wonder how they put the food on these little white sticks, and her dad, Man-at-Arms, is like, those are rib bones, and like Teela and Gilder are kind of freaked out, and Man-at-Arms just keeps eating anyway. It's just one of those like memories of films that just sticks with me over the years. Do the effects hold up? Some. I mean, but a lot of it's like very 80s. It's kind of, got this lightning style video game. It's got its own charm to it. Much like when we talk about Highlander, Like some of the effects in Highlander. I mean, it sticks out like most 80 films do, but I enjoyed it. I like when He-Man is trying to, get the Sword of Grayskull and Skeletor is hitting him with the gold lightning. I like that. It's fun. Overall, I enjoyed this rewatch. What about you? Did you have an epiphany to say, hey, this is actually a pretty fun film?
It is much better than I remember being as a kid. But yeah, I like it. In that it's a very Canon film.
It really is.
Yeah, it's just slapdash. It's run and gun. It's, let's see if we can. I don't want to say this because it's not that bad, but it's got an Ed Wood feel about it. It's just got a kind of a, we don't have a permit to film this, run kind of vibe about it. And it's charming. That just sells the charm. Yes, I still want to see an actual He-Man movie in Eternia someday, but this is still kind of fun.
We might, right? Like that's probably what they're going to try to do.
There's been that rumor for a while, yeah.
Full on fantasy type flick.
Fuck yeah.
No, man. Like this is Master of the Universe is a fun movie. I think even kids nowadays would probably get into it. Dolph Lundgren being all like goofy He-Man. I mean, physically, like he looked the part.
Yeah.
But like when he talked, I'm like, man, Dolph Lundgren, stop talking.
There's that story in the Canon film documentary, Electric Boogaloo, that Sylvester Stallone supposedly sees that they cast Dolph for Masters of the Universe, and he looks at the writer and says, "You actually gave that guy lines?" Oh shit!
And that's like one of his best friends.
Yeah, right.
Other than it's like hitting steel.
Yes. If he dies, he dies.
He does. I don't know, man. Like I think Skeletor is great in this. I think that whole speech where he gives while He-Man's being whipped. He's like, "Where's your strength? So as you die, I will be reborn." I think that's so badass. I think Skeletor rocks in this film. Love the final battle. It's definitely not the best choreographed scene. But I still get amped watching it, and it's kind of inspired by Star Wars, but it gave me chills. I think it's got some really fun moments to it, and
no, Langella, you're right, kills it as Skeletor.
Langella is great.
Yeah.
Wait, when you think back, it's like, man, Langella Skeletor, that's gonna be awful. He kills it.
He does. He nails it. He is the bright spot of the whole movie.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Let's kind of talk about the plot, if you will.
Go for it.
The director of Masters of the Universe, Gary Goddard, originally based this off as an homage to Jack Kirby's New Gods. So that was one of his inspirations to it. And he originally wanted to hire Kirby as a production designer, but he was told no because it was just going to be too expensive and just, they wanted a different direction to it or whatever. But you can see some of that influence of Kirby, I feel, in the design and kind of the elements, especially with the Skeletor character. I feel with some of the villains in it, I could see them almost popping out of like a Kirby comic book, and the look of Skeletor when he's like in his like awesome suit at the end when he's getting all powerful. That looks like a kind of a Kirby-esque character, and I think that's really neat. Plot of the film is essentially they got this kind of key to another dimension that they need to build. I mean, there is no plot, really.
No.
There's not much plot.
It really is just fish out of water, just done from Eternia to Earth, yeah.
Like,
man, I can't.
Honestly, it really, it was a showpiece for these characters, and let's send them to Earth. And, I guess you can say that it starts off with like a war of sorts between He-Man and his crew versus Skeletor and his crew. Mm-hmm. And it results with them having to come to Earth and then get their way back. I mean, that's the simple aspect of it.
I think you got it. I mean, that's the plot, yeah.
But there's so many holes in even that bare bones plot. And again, it's endearing. But Gwildor builds a cosmic key out of music instruments and random parts.
Why wouldn't he?
Kevin figures out the right notes to get to Eternia. Just happens.
It's actually eerily similar to how Battlestar Galactica ends.
Oh, Ronald D. Moore.
Yeah. Scarily similar.
You got a Lubick staying on Eternia.
Yeah.
That was silly.
Right. Yep.
It was very silly. Like, why? That's just so stupid. Julie saves her parents.
Courtney Cox.
Yeah. She saves her parents. Sure, why not?
There was when they were making this, they said, okay, there's no bad ideas. Just keep them coming.
Yeah, I mean, the way that I'm talking about it might make it seem that this is a terrible movie.
On paper, it's a terrible movie. When you're watching it, it's not.
They somehow pull it off.
Yes.
It's almost like, when you're saying, but when you add the pieces together, it all works. It's like, no. When you add the pieces together, it still doesn't work. But magically, it's still enjoyable. I can't explain it. Like, there's just so much wrong with this film. Is it just Langella's just so awesome and he carries it? I don't know. I do think that I actually do think the cast was pretty good overall. Other than Dolph.
Yeah, Dolph was a little. Meg Foster as Evil Lynn.
I thought it was good.
Yeah, she was working for me.
I thought she was good. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, honestly, I thought John Cipher, Chelsea Field, was father-daughter combo. Thought that worked.
That worked. It was believable.
I thought it worked. Billy Barty got a lot of shit for playing Gwildor. I thought he was fine. I thought Billy Barty was fun. I like Billy Barty.
I have no problem with him.
No, overall, I thought, I think Lundgren was the sort of, and he even says that's the low point of his career.
That's saying something.
That's saying a lot.
I mean, he was about to embark on an epic straight-to-DVD career. Jeez. But, I'm sure it wasn't a fun shoot. Working for those Canon film people that, cut your budget at every chance they got.
And I guess I'll jump ahead a little bit here, but originally Canon Films wanted to do a Spider-Man film. They wanted to do a Spider-Man film. I think it was going to be James Cameron.
Right.
Do a Spider-Man film for them.
He played some shenanigans with that, right? I remember that story.
Yeah.
Like he was getting paid based off what the budget of the film would be or something.
So basically, trying to increase the budget for that Spider-Man film, they decided, hey, let's do Superman 4 and Masters of the Universe, and then take the profits. Those two films are going to do well. We'll take the profits from that film, roll it into a Spider-Man film. And instead, Canon went under. Because, if you recall, Superman 4...
Yeah.
Masters of the Universe at the box office. Canon Films gone.
They were gone. Yeah, Superman 4 was a budget of $30 million. They trimmed to 17, 16, right around there.
And you can tell.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell.
Horrible.
Even bringing Gene Hackman back for that didn't help.
No, it didn't. It didn't. He couldn't save that one.
Maybe should have had Dolph Lundgren in that one as Superman's villain.
He looks a lot less like a Chippendale model.
Canucular Man.
It'd be awesome.
Maybe if he was Canadian, he'd be Canucular Man.
He would be.
Right. What is the legacy of this film? It's hard to say. I mean, you think back to like what it could have been if they would have been able to do the original draft. More time spent on Eternia, Snake Mountain, Beast Man had a speaking role. He-Man's mother, originally from Earth. Like these are some of the things that were in the original script, which we didn't see. Then you have a sequel to this film that was made. You ever see the sequel?
No, I guess I somehow missed it.
It's a movie called Cyborg.
Oh, no shit.
And they didn't want to pay Mattel's licensing fees, so they just didn't make it a He-Man film.
Huh, I didn't know that.
Cyborg was the sequel that was written. I feel that there is nostalgic fondness to this film, though. When we talk about legacy of Masters of the Universe, I find when you talk about it, people kind of light up. It's like, oh yeah, that movie's awesome. What do you think? Just from people that you interact with, do you think people are like, generally think fondly of this film?
I think so. I think the legacy of this film is you have to remember it as it is and not what it could have been. And it's this really odd, charming little piece of 80s happenstance. I don't know. I want to say mistake, but I don't know. Everything went wrong for them, but it still came out okay.
You know what was awesome in that film?
What's that?
I kind of mentioned it before, though. Skeletor's costume. I think even today, that holds up. I think the legacy of thinking how Skeletor looked in that film and how they pulled off the look of Skeletor for that time period, I think that's a legacy thing. I think that holds up the test of time. Over. I mean, I can't say enough about how awesome Frank Langella was in this film.
He was so good, yeah.
Yeah,
no, he killed it, and he, man, with a bigger budget, with him getting a little bit more screen time, this would be one of the all-time great villainous performances in the 80s, I think.
Yeah, I almost wonder if we could save this film, if you will. Like what would we need to do to save this film? I think more Skeletor.
Yes.
I think the whole movie should have just been from Skeletor's point of view of trying to take over Earth. I think that would have been, and then just, showing them chasing after He-Man and He-Man being on the run. Less He-Man screen time, I feel.
Mm-hmm. You got to think that was budgetary. Like they can only afford Frank for a week or two, and so they did that and done. But man, when they're shooting it, you'd almost be tempted to do some quick rewrites to see if you could just milk it and get him in there longer. They had to see what we are seeing.
Right.
I'd love to know, could you just not afford him? Or was it just Or, what was the story?
Yeah.
That's what I'm really wondering.
Yeah, and even like thinking about like why it had to take place on Earth. Yeah, I get it. It's cheaper to film in the streets. It's cheaper to do that than building these sets.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, they built the throne room and all that stuff in Castle Grayskull. They built all that set. Like, I think even another 5 minutes there. Maybe do like a some running around the castle, like some dungeon type thing. Like or like 5 minutes there. Just chop away. Just chop some of the Earth stuff away.
Drive them outside out of L.A., slap a filter on it, and say you're in Eternia.
There you go, man.
Yeah.
Like
It worked for Star Trek.
I almost feel that they could, as cheesy as this film was, why not just up the cheese factor a little bit and just make it more on Eternia and then just film in the middle of the nowhere and say, well, this is Eternia. There's a lot of desert on Eternia. Who cares?
Yeah.
I think you don't have to have all these mystical beasts and stuff like that. Just have a battle. Just have them fighting out in the desert. He-Man and Skeletor just fighting out in the desert.
Mm-hmm.
That would have been awesome.
Very interesting choices they made, yeah. But it still works. It still is fun.
Yeah. All right. Anything else?
I got nothing. It was an enjoyable revisit.
If anyone has any comments, whether they like the film or don't like the film, or whatever you want, comment below, please. We want to see your comments. We want to know what you think about Masters of the Universe. I think the last thing that I have to ask is with this remake that's in the works. What do you want from the? Are you interested in a remake? Are you interested in seeing a new He-Man Masters of the Universe film?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you were talking to our audience. Yeah,
audience too, but you specifically.
Yeah. Oh, fuck yeah, I am. Yeah. Again, I'm going to sit here and talk shit on big Hollywood movies, but I'll be first in line for this big piece of shit Hollywood movie.
Yeah. I think the odds are stacked against it for a couple of reasons. I think nostalgia is heavy in the corner. Rah, rah, sis, boom, bah. Nostalgia. I think there's a lot of even millennials like looking back at the 80s, even though they weren't even alive yet, and saying that, oh, the 80s were awesome. I think that there's going to be some interest in a He-Man film and Masters of the Universe. I do think that is in the corner. Up against it, overall, is fantasy films suck. And they cannot be pulled off well. See World of Warcraft.
Well, you've got China.
Good point.
Yeah.
So there you go. That's all you need.
Yeah.
Masters of the Universe is probably going to kill it in China.
It's
going to. I mean, they make all the toys there, right? They're very familiar with the toy line, I bet.
Yeah, I bet they are. That's so fucked up.
All right. Stay tuned for our exclusive interview with actress Chelsea Field. She, of course, played Teela in the film. Make sure to like this video, comment below, subscribe to us if you're listening to us on SoundCloud or iTunes. Please do the same. You can also follow us on Facebook and on Twitter at Movie Stuff Show. Tune in this Thursday for our International Master Debaters show.
International. I will be the only American on it.
And you're the host.
I'm the host, so I don't really count.
Yep.
I'm a non-entity anyway.
So we're going to have some from Canada, some from Iceland, and some from Austria.
Finland.
Oh, I said Iceland, didn't I?
Oh, you're going to provoke an international incident.
Oh, at least I didn't say Greenland.
Yeah, no.
Finland.
Finland
will be on.
Canada. Austria.
Tune in next Monday night for our brand new vegetable lasagna show. And we, of course, will be back next Tuesday with a roundtable discussion and review of the new Ghostbusters movie.
This is going to be interesting.
I think so. Abraham.
Yo.
What's going on in the All-Star game?
I don't know. I saw Hosmer hit a home run off Cueto, so I was like, fuck yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Final words?
You will no longer stand between me and my destiny.
It's true.
Yep.
Later.
See ya.
Joining us now on the show, actress Chelsea Field. Chelsea, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today.
Sure, it's my pleasure.
You know, He-Man was such a major part of the lives of just millions of children in the 80s. The toys, the comics, the cartoon, and of course, Masters of the Universe, the movie. They're still looked at with such nostalgic fondness from people like myself who grew up in the 80s. Now, how did you first, get involved with this movie? How did you originally get involved casting wise?
Well, it was my first. I'm pretty sure it was my very first big movie that I got. I'm trying to think. I might have done a couple of little tiny things before that.
I know you had like a brief cameo in Commando, actually, right before that. Yeah.
Right, and then I had been a dancer for about 10 years before I transitioned into acting. So I already had like a whole career dancing professionally, which was great. And then I started transitioning into acting sort of through commercials first, and then started getting a few little jobs here and there. But and I just remember I had so many auditions for Masters of the Universe, and they were very, obviously there wasn't a lot of dialogue, so a lot of it was sort of physical. And I can remember being in the director Gary Goddard's office and pretending that I had a laser gun in my hand or a sword, because they changed it, but originally Teela did a lot of broadsword fighting. So I just remember running around his office and mimicking that I had a sword or a laser gun, and doing these scenes and jumping over couches and being very active and physical. And literally I must have had 8 or 9 auditions. And when they finally called me, I was living at a ranch in Burbank, and when they called me at my house to tell me, I think my manager called me, I screamed so loud. It was the feeling, and I just told my son about this. My youngest son is also a performer, and I said, when I got Masters of the Universe, I felt like I had won the Super Bowl in the last 2 seconds. I had run the touchdown, and the score was tied, and I made the touchdown. That's what the feeling was like. I've never had that feeling again since then. And I think a lot of it was not just because it was a feature film, but there weren't a lot of dancers that kind of broke through from the dance world into acting. It's done a lot more now, but back then it was really rare. And you also didn't let people know that you were a dancer if you're trying to become an actress. It was like that was sort of a thing that you hid, or you didn't want people to know. So there was a sort of a general feeling among people that dancers were terrible actors. So it was a big deal for me.
Now, were you familiar with the toy line or the cartoon prior to doing the movie?
No, not at all. I didn't have any younger. My parents are from England, so all of my relatives, they all lived in England. So I didn't have like younger, siblings. And I only have a sister and a brother. They're older than me. So I wasn't really that aware of it. I mean, when they told me about it, I think I might have watched the cartoon once or whatever, but I wasn't aware of any of that.
But so you had mentioned you had a son, and I think you have 2 sons, right?
I have 4 kids, two that are mine, and then 4 that I raised, because 2 are my stepkids.
Now, did they get into He-Man, and did they get a kick out of the fact that you were in the He-Man movie?
Well, my own sons were too young, right. But my stepson, who's now 24, he definitely was into it, and my stepdaughter was into it a little bit, but not. She was a girl, so not quite as much as my stepson.
Yeah, see, I'd be flipping out. It's like, oh, my mom is in He-Man. This is He-Man.
Yeah, my younger kids, like my 19-year-old was more impressed that I did like Flipper and Andre. That's what he was. And then my youngest son is, just excited that I'm directing musical theater because that's what he's into. So,
oh yeah,
it's all relative,
Now, when you were doing He-Man, was there a particular scene that you enjoyed the most?
Well, that film was literally so much fun. It was so much fun to shoot. And even when it was miserable, it was fun. Like, we shot, it felt like 3 months, but I'm sure it was only about 3 or 4 weeks of nights in Whittier, which was that whole all the explosion and, at the being on top of the building, and when Skeletor comes in and lands, all those exteriors that was the normal town, that was all done in Whittier. And we did so many nights. And when you're shooting nights, there's this kind of great feeling because you feel like you're the only people alive in the world that are working, because you're on this opposite schedule. And I remember coming back from the set, I used to always listen to Rick Dees in the morning, and because I was coming against traffic, but I was trying to stay awake because we were so exhausted. But it was miserable in a way doing the night shoot, but we had so much fun, and all the actors, Courtney Cox and Robbie McNeil and John Cipher, whom I'm still really good friends with, James Tolkien, Frank Langella, we all had such a great time together. We all became really good friends. We used to have dinner parties all the time, and then as the years went on, we sort of went our separate ways. But it was just a blast, and I'm trying to think. I guess that period of time, those night shoots, that whole period was a lot of fun. But the one scene that I remember was I didn't have a lot of lines, but I remember saying, I can't even remember the line, but it was when I was eating the chicken.
Yes, I love that scene.
And I realized that I'm actually eating a chicken, which is so very funny because I've eaten meat my whole life, but quite recently, like a year ago, I went vegan. And so it was definitely acting for me to do that because I used to be a meat eater, but now it wouldn't be. So that scene, and that was I think that was our first or second day that we shot that. So it was, it was right out of the gate, trying to make it work. And working with Billy Barty, he was such a sweet man and such a love. And of course, John Cipher playing my father, I absolutely adore him. So.
Oh yeah, that's such a great. That's one of my favorite scenes. It might be my favorite scene from the movie. I think it's such a great scene. Yeah, I know. Yeah, Frank Langella had said that was actually one of his favorite roles he had ever played, and I was astounded by that. But it just seems like, I know that there was a lot of just issues with the filming and having to start production again. So I can understand the stress of that. But it looks like it would have been just a fun movie to be on.
It truly was. It just was a blast. And Gary was a lot of fun as a director. I think it was his first movie, first and last maybe, but he was a really good guy, and we all got along with him. And John Cipher was hilarious because he has this huge, booming Broadway voice, and we'd be going overtime and there'd be meal penalties or whatever, and John would say, "This is ridiculous, Gary, we need a break, blah, blah," and he'd throw a big fit. And, Gary would start running around and everyone was like, "Hop to, oh my gosh," and, John's upset. And then he'd turn around and he'd just have this big shit-eating grin, can I say that on the radio?
Sure.
Shit-eating grin on his face and laughing, and because we were all standing there in shock too. Courtney and I were like, oh my gosh, John's mad, and then he'd turn around and he was completely pulling everybody's leg. So they were all, and then there was a line, the octoid rectifier, or there was something that was like the octoid rectifier was the word, and I think he had to say it. "Do you have an octoid rectifier?" And it was when we were in that Whittier scene, when we were in that town, and we were so tired that they kept goofing up how to say this octoid rectifier, and you can only imagine the kind of things that came out of his mouth. And then, of course, we couldn't get through the scene because we were all laughing so hard. And I think it was me, Courtney, John, and maybe Robbie McNeil, and we just had tears streaming down our faces. That was. I'm sure that added on, if not a few days, I know some hours to the shoot.
Oh, it's so great. Now, there was supposed to be a sequel to Masters of the Universe. The script became the script for the movie Cyborg. Did you get to see that script at all?
No, I never did.
Yeah.
I never even heard about it. This is the first I've heard about it.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny, too, there's just, for years and years, there have been rumors about rebooting the He-Man franchise, trying to get a new Masters of the Universe movie. It seems like they're close to it. I think that they are close to doing a new Masters of the Universe movie. Do you think if they tried to make one today, it would be kind of easier than it was back then, especially with technology and...
Oh, sure. I'm sure it would be fantastic. I mean, because the live action back then, the special effects, I'm sure, I haven't seen it in years, but I'm sure if I watched it now, it would be sort of campy and laughable because of the special effects and everything. Just, I do remember the set, like Skeletor's set was pretty remarkable when they built it. It was over at the old Laird Studios where Blake Edwards, I can't even remember what the name of it is now, but it's a studio in Culver City. And I think that it would be really great, and I think it would probably be really well received if they did it now.
Yeah, I do think that I remember reading somewhere that one of the limitations was the fact that it was going to cost so much to do these elaborate sets, and that's why they transferred most of the story to take place on Earth. So it was
Right.
easier to film on Earth as opposed to filming it in this fantasy world because of the limitations there. I kind of I love the movie. I love Masters of the Universe. This is one of the movies that I grew up with, and it's kind of near and dear in my heart. I would have liked to see that movie though take place in that kind of other world, the more fantasy elements of it, and see you guys kind of kicking ass over there.
Right, right. That would be nice, and I'm sure that's something that they could accomplish, now, with all the miniature filming and stuff that they do for special effects.
Exactly. Now, you'd mentioned before that you were a dancer for many years, and you were a dancer on Solid Gold. What was that experience like?
That was that was a good experience. Again, met a lot of great friends, people that I'm still friends with now, the choreographer and a couple of the girls. We still, stay in touch. And that came sort of at the end of my dance career. So I have to be perfectly honest, I wasn't really focused on that job, although I enjoyed it and it was fun. It was sort of a means to an end for me because I had been on the road singing as a rock and roll singer and top 40 singer, and I'd come back and I was wanting to get work as an actor, but ended up landing that job. And it was a kind of a good 9-to-5 job to make money, so that I was studying acting and then starting to do some commercials here and there. So it was a good sort of bridge for me to go from my professional dance career into acting. And sometimes I look back on it and I think, gosh, I wish I would have been more, I wish I would have gotten more out of it and been more focused on that particular job. Because it really was, the job to have during that time period. I mean, unless you were a principal with ABT or Alvin Ailey, really the only other dance work was sort of that show. So, all the variety shows like Carol Burnett and those shows that used to hire dancers, those weren't happening anymore. So,
Right.
it was a lot of fun. Met a lot of famous bands and entertainers, and they had comedians. David Brenner was on, and they had a lot of comedians, and so we were constantly meeting new people that were either musicians or comedians or actors, and it was a lot of fun.
Oh, that's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier that one of your first movies was Commando. You had a great little cameo in that. We actually just did an episode about Commando. We had David Patrick Kelly on talking about that, and then that's another one of those movies. We're very nostalgic. we love like this certain kind of grouping of movies, but we had to rewatch it for this episode, and I'm like, hey, it's Chelsea.
Hey, there's Chelsea.
I thought that was great. Yeah.
And I think that might have been my very first job, my very first film, and then maybe Masters came out after that. But on that movie, I remember, I think the director was Mark Lester. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I remember we were on this plane set, and they were talking about the scene, and they said, "Oh, Chelsea, all that stuff that the flight attendants say when you're getting ready, fast. Just rattle all that off for us, okay? Ready and rolling, go." And I was like, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to such and such airlines. And I had to ad-lib all of that. I don't even remember if they used it in the movie, but I remember just feeling like I got shot out of a cannon and had to none of those were my lines. They just said ad-lib all that stuff. So I was reaching back to the dark places of my mind trying to remember what they say on the airplanes.
Yeah, it's funny too. I mean, yeah, because you had Arnold in that movie, and then with Masters of the Universe you had Dolph, and then you did Last Boy Scout with Bruce Willis. You had like a nice string of like working with like big action stars.
Yeah, a lot of testosterone in those years. And then Don Johnson and Mickey Rourke on Harley Davidson, The Marlboro Man. That was a lot of testosterone too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you survived all that. You survived all
yeah.
that. Yeah, and you're you said you're doing some musical theater directing, right?
Yeah, I direct and I choreograph, and I'm still acting a little bit. I took a big chunk of time off to have and raise a bunch of kids, and they're almost out of the oven. So it's trying to get back into it is a little more challenging because when you've been out of something for a lot of years, my agents will call me to go on a call, and I say, guys, I'm not that age anymore. They're like, yeah, well, they know how old you are. They know you, Chelsea. They really love you. They want to see you. I said, okay, tell them I'm 57, and then call me back. And they go, oh yeah, you're right. You're too old for this. It's like, okay, that's okay, because they think of me how when I left the business, basically when I stopped acting.
Right.
So I was, in my early 40s.
Yeah, it's difficult enough. We've had a couple of great female guests on from Hollywood, and just talking about just how difficult it gets as you get older as a female actor, and it seems like the George Clooney's of the world, they get older and they keep getting all the jobs.
Well, to be fair, I think that there is so much work right now for women, and I think, of course, there is always more work for men. There's always, I think the ratio of men to women is not equal, but and we can, as women, keep trying to work towards getting that more 50-50. But I look around with cable and with the networks and with independent movies and studio movies, and I think there are so many great roles for women. There are a lot of roles. And what I sit here and I think, well, it was my choice. I remember doing a movie with Andy Garcia in Canada. I had both of my little children, both of my own boys, with me. My youngest was, I don't know, a year maybe. He cried the entire night, all the way through the night. I had to be up at 6 and work the next day. I had to do a scene where Andy Garcia and I were angry at each other, yelling at each other, and my, at the time, 4-year-old was sitting on the set watching, with tears coming down his eyes because he didn't like seeing me so upset. And I just thought, I can't do this. I can't be on a set and work as an actress and also raise my children. And so I made the choice to be with I know that other people do it, but I couldn't find a way to do that. So
right.
For me, I couldn't be on the set with my kids on the set. It was upsetting for them, all those different things, and I couldn't go to work after being up all night in a hotel in Canada with my baby.
Right.
I mean, I did, but I couldn't do that regularly. And I made the choice, and I don't regret 1 second of it. And I also understand that when you're gone for something for 10 or 15 years,
any profession,
yeah,
really, yeah.
I mean, if I worked at a bank and I came back after 15 years, they'd say, "Well, Chelsea, there's so much online stuff happening now," and I'd be like, "What does online mean? What's a computer?"
Yeah.
So. I do see that there is a lot of work for women out there. There could be more, yes. I strive for women to be, directors and get into positions of being producers and writers and more of that too, along with in front of the camera. But it's if they have a choice between hiring me and somebody who has a bigger name or who's just done something that's or has a Twitter account with 9 million people following them, I understand as a producer also, they're going to hire that person, unless it's so specific that, oh my God, we need an ex-dancer who also used to be a rock and roll singer and this and that. Hire Chelsea Field. Okay. So it's all good.
Yeah. Well, honestly, Chelsea, again, we on our show really love the movies that you've been in, and I'm sure that we'll probably do a Last Boy Scout episode at some point in the future
good.
as well. But I really appreciate the time you took to talk with us today, and wish you the best of luck. And I hope we do see you in a couple of things. I hope you do find those roles that are.
Well, you never know.
Yeah. So, thanks again, Chelsea. Really appreciate it.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye.